Here we are, ready for the live stream. Here we go. Mm, mm, mm. Ready for the live stream. Okay, got that organized. Well, how's everybody doing? This a special day in the Netherlands because it's King's Day. It used to be Koninginnedag, but since we don't have a queen anymore, it's Koningsdag. And that's why I'm dressed in orange. And also, it's to support one of my favorite creators, and I would say friend, Love. Yes, I bought that shirt last year when we done a podcast together. I do that sometimes when I do a podcast with a creator who has merch. I'll support them by buying their merch. So I'm just gonna say hello to everybody. Hello, Gentiles. Hello, Seb Ricciardo. Hello, Hank. So far, only Dutchies. And there's Samantha. Yes, the king was in Doetinchem. And you live in the east, right? So, yeah. That's nice. Very nice. Yeah, so I prepared a little bit for the leader in the championship, Oscar Jack Piastri. Yeah, Gentiles, he sells all kinds of merch, but his colors are purple and orange. And yeah, this was one of the options. Hey Vegas. Yes, we're trying to find out if Oscar has got what it takes to become a world champion. And if it's going to be this season or maybe he's not ready yet. But that's what we're going to try to find out. But welcome all the way from Nevada. So I'm just going to talk for a few more minutes before I start with the content. Just to see if more of the regulars arrive, which I think is very important. See, this week I tried to create more videos in one go. So I was recording 2 videos a day and then editing them and then uploading them. I've got one about Lewis Hamilton coming out tomorrow. And then I have to create another one, and I'm doing a podcast this week. The Battle podcast with 2 guests arguing over something. I think it's Oscar Piastri week because, yeah, I can spoil it already. It's a battle between a Oscar Piastri fan and a Lando Norris fan. So that's going to be fun. Silent Hour. Welcome. And he starts straight away into the content. I haven't even started yet, but it depends if Red Bull can make a turnaround and Max won't get a race ban from MBS. Well, Max was very careful not to say anything that could be construed as negative after the penalty he received. So, yeah, I think Max is on his toes and he just wants to concentrate on getting a good car. And as soon as he gets a good car, he'll stay out of trouble because he'll be leading. He'll be getting pole positions and just driving away. That's what we want. Hello, Tanvir. All the way from India. Thank you for joining. Samantha is still talking about our queen, Maxima. That's nice. No problem, Silent Hour. I love people who are enthusiastic. And yeah, you know. So Silent Hour, where are you from? Are you Dutch like us? Because I don't think I've seen you in this chat very often. Maybe it's the first time. Mhm. First time for Silent Hour. And he's from the Netherlands. Nou, van harte welkom. Okay, what time is it? It's 6 minutes past 8 here, so I'm just gonna get started. So I based my research um, to see how Oscar Piastri did last year, and then how I predict he's gonna do this year. And I based it on qualifying results, race results, incidents he had, errors he made, and yeah, what tracks he was good at, and did he get any penalties, or were there strategic errors from McLaren? There were quite a few of those. Yeah, the data I gathered just from the internet, different F1 sites and stuff. So one of the races he struggled a lot um, was Mexico. He qualified in P17 there, and he finished in P8. So that was only 4 points. He had some problems with the setup of his car, and yeah, he just he couldn't get out of Q1, and he had to start from P17. He recovered to 8, which was pretty good. Um, we had pretty good race pace, and his tire management, which wasn't one of his strong suits last year, got better and better. Um, and McLaren wasn't all that great in Mexico because Norris finished P4, so P4, P8. You know, they weren't too far apart. Um, Now, Mexico is still a long, long time away. Let me see if I can get this. Um, yeah, Mexico is in October, so I'm not doing this chronologically as for the dates. I'm just yeah, I found my research, and so yeah, who knows what the McLaren car will be like in October. But it's something to keep an eye on for Oscar Piastri because, like I said, he wasn't very good in Mexico last season. So let me go to the chat here. Okay. Hank says Red Bull. The Red Bull wasn't bad in the desert heat though. From 17 to 8 is very good in Mexico. Yeah, no, it was a good performance, but yeah, he ruined it because of his qualifying, and that's something we saw more often last season, and I think this season he made a step up in his qualifying skills. He got a pole position and a second place, so this was pretty good. Okay, the next race that I have here on my list where he struggled was the Miami Grand Prix. And this is more suitable because next week we'll be in Miami. Well, I won't be in Miami, but the F1 circus will be in Miami. And last year, Oscar Piastri qualified in 6th there, and he finished the race in P13 outside of the points. So maybe that track is a bit of a bad luck track for him. So if you're wondering what happened there, I've got it written down here. Piastri finished P6 in the sprint because last year was a sprint race as well. But during the main race, he had a collision with Carlos Sainz, and his car was damaged. And it was the first race that he finished outside of the points since Brazil the year before. And one thing that was special about the 2024 season of Oscar Piastri is that he drove every single lap of the season, which was quite special. Yeah, on the Miami street circuit, the tiniest little error, or because it's so tight, the damage is usually quite big as well, and there's a lot of high speed parts on the Miami track. So yeah, it was just very unfortunate that happened. Let me see what the chat's saying. Oh, hello, Aoife. Aloha. Vegas says thin, dry air in Mexico City. Yeah. What's the air like in Miami? It's also warm, isn't it? Hank says he ruined his qualifying in Australia and was pissed he didn't ruin anyone after that weekend yet. And everybody's saying hello to Aoife Bastard Operator. Oscar is bringing the heat onto Norris. I think that's what Hank is trying to say. Okay, so the next race where Oscar Piastri struggled was the British Grand Prix, round 12. Let me see if when Silverstone is this year. That'll be in July, Silverstone. Okay. So, what happened in England? He qualified 3rd, which is all right, and he finished the race in 4th. Piastri raced that whole race with a injured rib, and it's an injury he sustained on the Austrian Grand Prix. So Silverstone was, as he said himself, a pretty nasty affair for him because he was in pain the whole race. But he was leading the race in mixed conditions until the McLaren team made a strategic error. And yeah, he made it up to 8th place, 4th place. But yeah, the strategy was pretty poor. And this was the race where Lando Norris was asked if he wanted soft tires or medium tires, and they told him that Lewis Hamilton had soft tires, and even though they had fresh mediums, they still gave Norris the softs, and they crumbled. So Lewis Hamilton won Silverstone. So yeah, it was nice for Lewis, but not for Norris or Piastri. So in 2025, He'll probably not have that injury. And I have to say that McLaren has made a step up strategically as well. I haven't seen. I've seen him make no decision once this season, but I haven't seen him make huge, blatant errors. So, in that sense, things are looking up. Okay, so I've got one more race where he struggled, but let's go to the chat first. Hey, El Renzo. And El Renzo is saying that I'm looking great. Well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm wearing orange, and I'm wearing merch from Love. I told people this already who were early in the chat, but I buy merch of content creators that I've worked with to support them. One day, when I have like maybe 10 or 20,000 subscribers, I'll bring out my own merch. But for now, I don't think it's worth the hassle to sell 20 t-shirts. If I'm lucky. Um. Tanvir is complaining about ads. I'm sorry about that, Tanvir, but it's how I make a tiny little bit of money on these live streams. But I thought they were skippable, but yeah, sometimes they're not. Sorry. I have them placed moderately over the stream, so not like high intensity every 3 minutes or so. Okay. Gentili says, yeah, that happens to me too. Yes. No. In live streams, you get ads every 8, 9, 10 minutes, depending on what the creator fills in, and I've done moderately. So, anyway, Hank says McLaren is learning too. Well, that's what I'm saying. You know, that I haven't seen any blatant mistakes of them. I think the whole McLaren team, Norris, Piastri, and the team itself have improved, and the car has improved as well compared to the rest. So, hey, there's Christina. Hello, Christina. I just followed you on Threads as well. Nice. Eva says, thank God we have the Snooker World Championship to get me over those dreadful F1 starved 2 weeks. I watched a little bit in the gym when I was doing my warm-up on the treadmill. There was a bold English fella against a Chinese fella. But, you know, they were taking their shots one after the other, and nobody putted anything, or, you know? It was weird. I don't know much about snooker. Don't you have to put in a red ball first, and then you can take one of the colored ones until all the red balls are gone? Silent Hour. He says, most I see online is still the first corner from Max in Saudi. He set out the penalty, so let it go already. Well, that's true. But yeah, you know how it goes. More footage shows up, and then it looked like Max was ahead most of the time in that turn. So he was allowed room in that turn, and he didn't get room, so he cut the corner, stepped on the gas, and took a bigger lead and got a 5-second penalty. So yeah. Yes, Aoife. I saw. That's what I saw. The Scottish fella. Yeah. Did he win? Anyway, I'm going back to my content. The next race where Oscar Piastri struggled, it's not chronologically because it was the second. What is it? What was Brazil last year? Yeah, it was Brazil. he qualified second in the sprint. Wait. I don't know how I wrote this down. Oh, yeah. He qualified second for the sprint and he qualified 8th for the race. And he finished the sprint race in 8th and he finished the main race in 8th position as well. Yeah. So Piastri took the lead in the sprint, but he was ordered by McLaren to give the position to Lando Norris because he was in the championship. So he did that in the closing laps, which was, it was a weird situation. The whole papaya rule thing. And he had a run-in with Liam Lawson, and that got him a penalty, and that's why he finished 8th. So the whole team order thing overshadowed the weekend a little bit. And the race itself was the wet race. It was the Max Verstappen masterclass. But yeah, it was tricky and chaotic race conditions, and Oscar didn't do too well there. So, guys, would you say Oscar Piastri is a good wet weather racer? I don't think he's shown an awful lot in wet races, so that could also mean he could lose points to Max Verstappen and Lando Norris at some point when we have wet races again. Yeah, well, so far, Oscar Piastri has done all the 2025 races without any penalties, and the only mistake he made was, getting stuck in the grass in Australia, his home race. But he has recovered that well, I'd say. Okay, back to the chat. Let's see what everybody's saying. Hank says snooker is a nice game to watch. And Christina says, I love how they always post the footage from after the Apex. Well, like isn't the Apex a flexible thing? You know, like there's drivers that take a V-shaped turn. That's how they position the car. And there's drivers that make a U-turn, taking a corner. And for both the situations, the apex is in a different place. But yeah, that's all way too technical for me. What I've noticed over the weekend or after the weekend is that people love seeing Max get a penalty, and they'll explain the rules to justify the penalty he got. And some of them were even upset that he didn't get a 10-second penalty. But yeah, this is about Oscar Piastri. Oscar Piastri was very firm in his driving, and I think it's kind of cool because Max drives like that too. But I don't think Max will get peeped again by Oscar. I think the gloves are coming off now. You know what Max Verstappen was like against Lewis Hamilton in 2021? And if he needs to do that against young Oscar Piastri, he will. And he won't wait 8-9 races to do it. He'll do it right off the bat from now on. But anyway. Okay, so John Higgins hasn't won yet. They ran out of time. Yeah, that's because they didn't put any balls in. Okay. Oh, Hank remembers that in Brazil, Piastri gave up his position twice to Norris. That's true, because Norris went off twice and ended up behind Piastri. I already forgot about that. Hank says Oscar didn't make many mistakes in the wet, but didn't show brilliance either. And Eva says it's not that Norris is a Regenmeister now, is he? Remember Soji? No. But didn't he put in a couple of really good qualifying laps in the wet? Then again, he went off really badly in the wet as well. Anyway, this is not about Lando Norris. It's about Oscar Piastri. Christina says, yeah, they are things like apex and late apex, but even professional racers agree the penalty was justified. Okay, then. I'll accept. Silent Hour says, Norris is like a high-stake casino. High risk, high reward. Yeah, he's not afraid to go all in during a wet race. Sao Paulo bottling 4 starts in a single race. That makes a very special kind of stupid. And Tanveer says, as much as I see the overtaking rules as a bit vague, it can be interpreted various different ways. Yeah, that's the problem. That's the problem with these FIA rules. But yeah, I'm not fighting that in this live stream. And there's Chris Graham. Chris Graham says he will try to intimidate Oscar. He will try. But Oscar Piastri is not intimidated very quickly. Christina is remembering back from that meme where Lando Norris is off the track and it says "Think different." Yeah, that was cool. And there's Champ 92, all the way from Switzerland. Welcome. Yeah. Lando Norris crashed really badly in Spa 2021. That was when Sebastian Vettel drove slowly and made sure he was okay. So Champ says Piastri was the best so far. He has not only a good car, but he drives very well. I agree. Okay, where was the next race where Oscar Piastri struggled last season? Well, he struggled in Abu Dhabi. In Abu Dhabi, he got an incident with Max Verstappen, and they both spun. And he said, yep, that's the move of a world champion there. And then later on, he crashed into Colapinto. And he felt a little bit stupid because of what he said about Max Verstappen. It says here that he completed every single lap of the 2024 season. So in that sense, he was very consistent, even though he had a few races where he didn't score any points. And McLaren won the Constructors, thanks to Lando Norris winning that race. It was a struggle because of incidents, and it wasn't really... he wasn't to blame for all of that. Abu Dhabi is the last race this season. And there's no reason to believe why he wouldn't do better than the P10 that he scored in 2024, in 2025. So, let me go back to the chat. What have I missed? There's Mihai from Romania. Yeah, you're half an hour late, Mihai, but there's still half an hour left because I always like to do these live streams for about half an hour. Hank says in Abu Dhabi he could have left more space, but the next incident he overcooked it. Yeah, but Max Verstappen admitted that he was a little bit too enthusiastic going into that turn on the curb, and then the curb pushed him wide, and then Oscar hadn't seen him, so he didn't give him the space because he didn't expect. No, Oscar Piastri was looking forward instead of looking backwards, and that's how it happened. No biggie. Silent Hour says, I gotta give it to Oscar. Putting it in reverse to get out was a master move. Yeah, you're talking about Australia, right? Or did he put it in reverse in Abu Dhabi as well in 2024? God, my memory is like a sieve. Can't remember shit. Okay, Chris Graham has a question. Hey, Wimborne. That's a cool name. It's like a combination of my name, Wimbo, and Jason Bourne. You know. So, yeah. If you see me jumping over a chair and sliding off the stairs, you could say, "Oh my God, it's Wimborne." Anyway, the question: what do you think about Oscar's growth from rookie to current form? I think it's amazing because um, this is his third season. He's done 52 races so far. He's won 5, and yeah, no, I think it's brilliant. And he wasn't unfortunate with how the McLaren development went, right? So when he had his first season in 2023, the car started really bad. So nobody blamed him for, bad performances or anything. And there was no pressure to perform because everybody knew what state that car was in. And then slowly, little by little, the development of the car made the car quicker and quicker and quicker until by the end of 2023, it was the quickest car. And he started getting in these really good results. And then in 2024, um, his teammates started winning races in Miami a year ago. And then he did it as well in Baku and Hungary. No, yeah. Um, so, yeah, no, he's shown incredible growth, and he's got a really cool, strong head on him, and he's very skilled. So, yeah. But there's no guarantee that he will have one or two slumps this season, because to be at this level that he's been for the last 5 races, to be like that consistently, like Max was in 2023, it's very difficult. And the pressure of being, ahead in the championship, that might, even though he won't show it, might get to him a little bit as well. And yeah, there's still so much car development to be had for Red Bull. I'm still expecting for McLaren to put on an upgrade that doesn't work, because so far that hasn't happened yet. So far everything that McLaren has put on the car has worked, but that's going to happen at some point. And then it's all the question of, yeah, how will he deal with that, and how many points will he score in a bad race? Because that's important as well. Like Max, which I think is the biggest competitor, um, Max's worst result was a P6 in Bahrain, and that was a race with bad pit stops and a car that wouldn't turn, and all kinds of issues, braking issues. So if that is Max's worst result, then that's a high standard. So I hope that answers your question. Oscar Piastri's growth has been immense. and he's brilliant. Okay, where was I? Silent Hour says, yeah. Racing Incident. Champ 92 says, it's hopefully going to be an interesting championship fight for 2025. I already think it's interesting. Mihai says, more like the Borg in Star Trek. Dude, I don't like Star Trek. Samantha likes Star Trek. I like Star Wars. Champ 92 says, in Bahrain, Oscar Piastri came close to a Grand Chelem. That's true. And Gentili says, how good is Oscar really, though? The McLaren is structurally the fastest car this season. They should win all the races as things stand now. Yes, but if you talk to the McLaren drivers, especially Norris, then actually the car isn't that good. And it's very hard to drive. So, but Oscar says, yeah, marginally, we're still faster than the competition. So, yeah, if Max was in that car, he would lap the field. Hank says Oscar did well in the hardest second season of any career. That's true. And Chris says, how much is Webber having an influence behind the scene? Webber's influence is massive. Max Verstappen pointed that out as well. He said that he had his father teaching him all the ropes and preventing all the pitfalls that you can have as a young driver. And it's pretty much something that Lando Norris is missing because his father is a billionaire. And yeah, Lando Norris didn't get that hard treatment. But Oscar Piastri is getting that tough treatment from his manager. And I think structurally, Australians are very laid back people. And they get used to pressure a lot easier, you know. When I was traveling, I met a lot of Australians, and they don't panic very quickly, you know. I remember one that couldn't get his locker open, and all his important stuff was in there, and yeah, he wasn't all that bothered, and he said that if he didn't get the key sorted, he would just cut the lock, and that was it, you know. Yeah, I forgot what I was talking about. Oh yeah, Webber. But yeah, Mark Webber, and you know Mark Webber has a few ghosts in from the past as well. How team orders or you know Red Bull favoring Sebastian Vettel screwed him over a few times. And he's definitely making sure that that doesn't happen to his protege. So yeah, he's a massive influence on Oscar's career. Silent Hour says, if we check out the points in the graph, Lando should score next race unless Max or George will butt in. Okay. Hank says, I don't think Piastri will flinch under pressure, but maybe McLaren will. That could happen too. Mihai says, I like them both. And Vega says, I get ghosts of Damon Hill when watching Oscar sometimes. Okay. Yeah, I don't know anything about Damon Hill's driving style or his attitude when he was driving because I wasn't watching Formula One then. But it's interesting. Although I'm not a massive fan of Damon Hill, but that's probably because I don't like him as a pundit. Gentile says, of course McLaren says they aren't the fastest. We've heard that excuse years from Mercedes during the Mercedes years. Yeah, they always struggled so much during free practice. And then during the races, they put the power up and they beat everyone. Eva says, Oscar Piastri is the cure for Max Webber PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. God, I'm going to use that on Twitter. I'm going to steal that. Yep, Multi21. Yeah, Chris Graham says, great point. Will McLaren as a team hold it together? Okay, Lorenzo, thank you for joining, even though a little shorter than normal. Okay, what else have I written down? Okay, so last year Oscar Piastri qualified in P6 in Japan and finished P8. But he's already proven that he was pretty good in Japan, even though Max won. The Italian Grand Prix, he qualified third, but he finished seventh. I don't remember that. Was that the race where he overtook Lando and then Leclerc pushed through and then McLaren messed up the strategy? And then in the Austrian Grand Prix, he qualified seventh. He finished second, just behind Russell. Russell won because Lando Norris and Max Verstappen, they touched each other in turn 4. So, if we analyze his struggles, he used to have qualifying weakness, where he made his life a little bit too difficult at times, but he seems to have sorted that. There were a few unnecessary incidents and penalties, like in Miami and Sao Paulo and Abu Dhabi. The team messed up a few times, but yeah, they've been doing better as well. And then there was a physical challenge when he had a injured rib. He didn't get an injured rib from Zach Brown squeezing him too hard. That was Norris, wasn't it? I don't remember how it happened. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the girls are talking about, but I'm not getting in. Credit to Kiwi YouTuber Kimmy Coltrane, who came up with Mark Webber's PTSD. Kimmy Coltrane, is that a Formula One YouTuber as well? Because the only Kiwi I know as a YouTuber is, or a Formula One YouTuber, is George Revel, and I done a podcast with him last year. Hey, there's Jacob Black. Hello, sir. Welcome for another 15 minutes. And Chris is excited for Spa this season. Well, I'm always excited for Spa. I still haven't decided what race I'm going to, because I can't find anybody to go with. Okay, everybody's saying hi to Jacob. I think I'm through all the all my notes I've written out now, or I've read out now. So I'm just gonna take normal questions. Ooh, you know what I could do? I could make a poll. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Chris Graham has a question. Does the FIA need to change tracks that limit overtakes? no, they need to change the cars, and that's happening next season. Although they're only a little bit smaller, and I think they're even heavier than the cars they have now. But yeah, overtaking is hard because they're big, heavy boats, and some of the tracks are a little tight. But if the cars are less wide and smaller, then those problems wouldn't occur. I understand why they do it because it's for safety. You need to have enough space to crumble up in a crash. But then these stupid electrified engines weighing way too much, yeah, that's not helping. Maybe next week or the week after I can do a live stream about 2026 regulations. Maybe I can get a guest in then or something who knows a lot about it. Because there's a lot of talk about what they're going to change. I think it's a good idea to not have 50-50 engines where it's 50% battery and 50% um, normal engine. Because if Mercedes, for instance, comes out with the best, strongest engine and the power is divided 50-50, then they're going to have a massive advantage. And, the whole budget cap and the wind tunnel sliding scale is all done to prevent one team walking away with the championship. And the danger of getting an engine competition again is way too big. We've seen that in 2014. And it took 6 or 7 years before one team could get close. Right, what have I missed here? Hank says Piastri learned a lot from all his mistakes last year. Yeah, he did definitely made a big growth. And Jacob says, as a Max Verstappen fan, I had to say no to the pole. Yeah. And Hank says, it's a hard one, Wim. Yep. And Gentili says, the season is still long, it's hard to say. Christina is very positive. She says McLaren will bottle it. And Tanvir, he has an opinion about whether the track should be changed as well. And he says, no, the FIA needs to change the car. I think the cars are 800 kilos next season, Vegas. And Tanvir says, I think cars will suffer in high-speed tracks like Monza and Jeddah. Yeah, that's what I've heard as well. Where Max tested the thing on the sim and he had to shift down to get enough engine power to get through the straight, which isn't what they want to see, obviously. And Silent Hour says, too early to call who will win this year. Yeah. Mihai says, Danny Rick was struggling also. Lando didn't care. Now he sees the other side of that. True. But then again, Daniel Ricciardo, he joined McLaren, and as a joke, he said to Lando Norris, I'm going to end your career. So, yeah. That wasn't very clever either. Christina says, and was it Marco who said that Imola upgrades will get them very close or even faster than the Papayas? Yeah, but then anything that Helmut Marko says I take with a pinch of salt. Because, yeah, he's old and he always tries to influence things by saying stuff. And Tanvir says, I'm also a Max fan, but I can't deny the data. Yep, True. Oh, that's another big one, Chris. I think Max will leave Red Bull this year. Why? With the Red Bull using a new engine, that's going to require development. Opinions. Well, my opinions fluctuate, right? A couple of weeks ago, I made a video about Max being pissed off with Red Bull because they replaced Liam Lawson and he wanted all the focus on the car. And I thought he was going to um, Aston Martin. And then a lot of stuff happened, and more stuff is coming out about Mercedes, that they're going to have the best engine, and that George Russell hasn't been offered a new contract yet, and George Russell is talking to other teams. So there's a possibility that Max might go there. But then the one of the big bosses of Red Bull, Oliver Mintzlaff, he said that he was certain that Max Verstappen was going to see out his contract till 2028. And when Max is asked, he says everybody's talking about it except me. He just wants to have a good car this season and win. And all the other stuff that doesn't bother him. Which is quite handy what he's saying, because his manager and his father might be having talks with teams, you know? But he's not talking about it. But yeah, it's possible he might leave to Mercedes or Aston Martin. Or he might stay. Or another option I've heard from Andrew Benson from the BBC is that he might take a year sabbatical and then sort out who's the best team in 2027. So I don't know. That's a good topic for a live stream as well. The will Max leave Red Bull topic. Okay. It's gonna be F none. That's a clever one now. Silent hour. Okay, that's a conversation between the guys. Yeah, Richard, I know it was banter from Danny Rick, but you know these guys mean it a little bit as well. Hank, the media is not basing that on 2014. It's stuff that comes out of the factories, and you can also tell by the political games that are being played. Apparently, Ferrari and Red Bull are keen on having the engine regulations changed. So less battery usage and more normal powered engine usage. And it's believed that Ferrari and Red Bull are saying that because they're behind with their own engine and battery development. But it's not based on 2014 alone. You know, these teams have data and the stuff leaks. Okay. Chris says, Wimbo, I could be your muse for YouTube topics. Yeah. Well, if I like it, then, you know, I'll use it. And if I don't, then you can fuck off. And I won't use it. Okay, Vegas has an interesting point here. 2014 was radical tech. 2026 seems more about refinement of tech. Yeah. But then again, the aero on the cars has changed a lot, especially with active aero instead of DRS and stuff. But yeah, interesting. Jacob Black says, oh, you're talking to Hank. That's fine. Okay, let me see how the poll went. 50-50? Holy moly. Alrighty then. We've got 5 more minutes. So, guys, are you all looking forward to Miami and a sprint weekend? Uh, are there people already fans of sprint weekends, or do you guys still prefer normal weekends? I've I've grown to accept that there's sprint races and sprint weekends, and I like qualifying, and we have two of those in a weekend. Um, and a sprint race, there's more stuff happening in a sprint race than a free practice session. But I don't like to see teams struggle with setup because they only had one free practice session. So that's a downside. But that's another topic that we could talk about. How do we feel about sprint weekends? Gentili says, I don't like sprints. And Mihai feels normal about sprints. And Vegas says sprint. So I think he likes it. Yeah, it is a spoiler to the real race. Although, like, Lewis Hamilton winning in China in the sprint and then being nowhere in the actual race, that was quite different. Hank likes the build up of a normal weekend. I can see that too. Like FP1 is not that important. FP2 is more important that day, and then FP3 is like refining all the setups and stuff, and then qualifying, and then boom on Sunday the full race. Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with you, Hank. That's very that's something I really like as well. Christina says these cars need so much fine tuning. You don't manage to do that in one free practice session. No, you often see that a lot of setups change during sprint races as well. I remember Max winning a race after being nowhere in the sprint race, but he found something in the sprint race. So yeah, I'm still mixed about it, but I've learned to accept that it won't change. The sprints are there to stay, and I understand that. With all due respect, the American audience uh, wants to see something to fight for almost every session, and that's probably why they made it because they have one FP1 session, and then there's qualifying, and then there's a sprint and another qualifying, and then the full race. Hank says the Arrow is Frankenstein onto the new cars to compensate for the engine deficit. Yeah, I've heard that as well. So yeah. Oh, there's Little Pill. All the way from Perth. But we're gonna quit now. Almost. 1 minute left. What are you doing up already anyway? It's Isn't it like 5 in the morning in Australia? Oh, Eddie. I'm finishing up here. You just need to rewatch it then. I'm sorry, Eddie. Yes, I agree. Little Pill. Nicole Piastri is a gem. She's so funny. Right, everybody. I have a request. Show my last two videos some love because the views have been down. If you can share it on your Reddits and your Twitters and your Facebooks, that would be great. Because I tried to produce 5 videos in 1 week. I have one coming out tomorrow about Lewis Hamilton struggling at Ferrari. And then for the fifth video, I don't have an idea yet, but something will come to me. And I'm recording a podcast this week. With Law VS. He'll be repping Oscar Piastri. And the other guest is Mr. Pulse. And he'll be defending the honor of Lando Norris. So let me see. If I can answer that question. Jacob Black wants to know, will there be high degradation in Miami? I can't remember how bad it was last season. I think one of the experts needs to answer that question. Let me see. I'm just gonna ask Grok here, yeah. How bad was tire deg in Miami? F1 race 2024. Okay, so the circuit is about 5 kilometers, 5.4 kilometers with 19 corners. It's got smooth asphalt and high grip demands. It's always very sunny, about 30 degrees Celsius. The tire compounds were C4, C3, and C2 for the hards. The degradation is high, but it's manageable. And Pirelli says that the C3 and C2 offered good durability. So it's looking like it will be a one-stop strategy. Yes. Yeah. So last year, it wasn't too bad with the degradation. Thank you so much for that super thanks, Jacob. And I hope I answered your question. So, guys, that's what's happening this week. More videos and a podcast, and then next week, I'll try to do a live stream at the normal time, unless there's a session going on. But I haven't looked at the times yet. Yeah, it's 5 a.m. So why are you up at 5 a.m.? Are you like my age and you can't stay in bed longer, or do you have a baby that needs fed? I need to know this from Little Pell. So Polish Eddie says, I lived in Florida for 15 years, 5 of them in the Miami F1 Lauderdale area. It's super hot, humid, and crazy, unpredictable, heavy rain. Wasn't what do you call him? Logan Sargent from Fort Lauderdale? Question. Right. It's not 5 a.m. there. It's 3. Oh, God. And Eva says they have plenty of tracks with great tradition in the US. Nobody can tell me they can't be brought up to speed with all the money they dumped into Miami or Las Vegas. Think Watkins Glen, Sebring, or Laguna. Yeah. Yeah. Or let them race on an oval. That would be quite interesting as well. Right, guys. I want to thank you all for joining this live stream, and I'll see you all in the next one. Take care now. Doei doei.